evening, everyone. I don't know where everybody got the impression that we were serving dinner tonight, but we're not. But welcome. I'll have the clerk call the roll, please.
Mayor Patricelli.
Present.
Councilwoman Diamond.
Present.
Councilman Dawes.
Here. Okay, I'll ask everyone to please stand, and I'll ask Brennan here to say the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, good. Thank you. Before we go into our regular business, I'm going to ask our county clerk to come up and make an announcement. I want to welcome Bruce Hidley, our county clerk, as Deputy Craig Carlson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight at your City Council meeting. Councilwoman Diamond, Councilman Dawes, distinguished members of the city, appreciate very much. I'm here tonight for a very good reason, and I'd like to take a moment to read this to you. The Honorable Bruce Hidley, Albany County Clerk. Thank you for your application to the Local Government Efficiency Program this year. This Department of State program assists municipal efforts to reduce expenses and increase service efficiency through shared services. I am pleased to announce that your Albany County and City of Watervliet Shared Records Management Project has been awarded $308,896 in funding from the LGE program. This award is contingent upon completion of a contract containing an appropriate budget and work plan for the proposed activities. The contract must undergo review by the New York State Attorney General's Office and the Office of the State Controller. So, with that, I want to say congratulations. It's an honor to be working with the City of Watervliet, my hometown, on this very important project, and we're very excited about this. We've gotten a lot of grants in the past for other municipalities, but this one is the largest grant that Albany County has gotten for a shared services program with a municipality through the Albany County Clerk's Office. So I wanted to come in person tonight to make this announcement and to give you the award letter. I'm going to ask, though, at your next City Council meeting to please draft a resolution authorizing the agreement for me, please. And once that is done, we'll do the same thing at Albany County. There's we have a direct contact person to get a hold of who will be the project manager through the Department of State, and we will be working directly with that project manager. But we have a couple of hoops to jump before we can do that, and one of them is getting a resolution draft with the City of Watervliet concurring with this agreement. So with that, I'd like to open up the floor for any questions you might have about this.
You do.
I don't have any questions. This is awesome.
I'll say
It's
thank
great.
you. I'll say thank you.
It's
Thank you.
basically, the grant is to digitize all of our older records, vital records throughout the city.
Right. See, as all of you know, in City Hall, there are a lot of old books from back in West Troy days. What this will do is this will digitize it, put it on Laserfiche, and get it into a cloud. And then what will happen from there is you will no longer have to utilize those books and give them the wear and tear that they get on a daily basis right now. You'll be able to get everything off of your computer, and you know, it's very easy access. We've done this with the City of Albany. We've done this with the town of Colony, the town of Gilboa, and we're going to get approval tonight to do it with the Village of Nance, and now the City of Watervliet. It's an exciting program, and we're excited that the City of Watervliet was willing to participate in this program. And like I said, $308,000 is a nice grant award. So,
is there any template that you need to see in the resolution language that you could send us so we could mirror that, or should we just draft it as?
I would just take this letter and draft it as is.
Okay, we could do that. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
So, are there any other further questions?
No, I don't have it. Thanks.
Now, what are working with your staff to get the grant going?
Yeah, they're very excited about this program, this grant, working with the City of Watervliet. This is the first time the Department of State has put a grant program together for shared services like this. So we took the opportunity and jumped right on it, and we gave the City of Watervliet first thought when it came to this particular grant with the Department of State. Normally our grants come through the Local Government Records Management Improvement Fund, which I'm sure all of you are familiar with. I'm sure you've gotten grants from them before, but this one came directly through the Department of State, which is why we were able to get $309,000, because there isn't a cap like there is with the Local Government Records Management Improvement Fund. So we're very excited. We look forward to working with the mayor, the council, and the city staff on this project. And as soon as we get the okay, I will let you know, and we'll get started right away.
Just for your records, the next meeting will be February 15th. That's when we have a whole bunch of resolutions.
Need to add anything?
No, for Watervliet, we'll be doing, the basis of the grant is, for Watervliet, we're going to do your vital records, birth, death, and marriages, in your common council books, and several oaths. And for the county of Albany, we're going to digitize the first 987 original deed books. So it's a win-win for the city and for the county of Albany. We don't have to handle all these original records.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate you putting me on first, because now I have to go downtown to an audit and finance meeting for another grant that we have to get approval this afternoon. You coming in?
Well, Brendan needs to go home and do homework, so.
Thank you.
All righty, thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you.
Right.
All right, our next, sort of not on the agenda, but something that we asked. It's probably been almost like 9 months we've been working on something of this nature. That we had a scout, Brendan Boycer, to come to us to do an eagle project. And one of the eagle projects that were suggested was to plant trees, because we're getting too old to plant them ourselves, and we needed some younger help, and that would be a perfect project. They took on that challenge, so if you go down along Broadway in front of the Arsenal, there's probably 10. There's 10 trees that were planted on the west side of the Arsenal, and they were all planted by Brendan's group from Troops 1078. So today, what I'd like to do is ask Brendan to come up and with the tree committee, they were working with them. On this way, here, face everybody so everybody can see. Come on this way. I have a citation for Brendan Boycer. We, the mayor and the city council, hereby express our sincere gratitude for selecting the city of Watervliet to complete an Eagle Scout project wherein you planted the 10 trees along Broadway in front of the Watervliet Arsenal. Your hard work and dedication to this project to the city of Watervliet is appreciated and admirable. On behalf of the city council and everyone else, Brendan, I want to thank you very much for this. All right? We do appreciate it. Thank you for your help. All right? And
on behalf of the tree committee, you're now an honorary member. This is very, not that many people get to wear this shirt. I'll tell you right now. So it'll fit well. No, but anyway, these were pretty good. If it's a little too small for you, let me know. And then put your one over to Charles. But congratulations. Thank you very much. It was a great help for us, and it looks very nice.
well, good. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. You guys don't have to stay for the entire meeting, but you want to take that, you can if you want to.
That'll give us a chance to do it again.
We have a number of good restaurants here. All right, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
See you good.
So we'll move into both, now to officers and committees.
I'd like to, if possible, move my time to speak at the end, because after I make the presentation on the findings of last meeting, we'll go right into public comment, because I know there's some people here. I'd like to leave the line to the end. Right under appropriations, yeah, because we're going to go right into that.
All right, so the next one we'll go into is, Lindsay make a presentation? Is that what
Yes.
you want to do?
Yes, so here tonight is,
Just speak into the mic. So
here tonight is Lindy Zepting, who will be presenting tonight on some changes to, or proposed changes to the 6th Avenue, 19th Street traffic light, which is currently functioning not the way it was intended back in the day because St. Patrick's School was there. Now we have a price chopper that has a lot of traffic that comes out and congests the 5th Avenue exit in 19th Street. And you see a lot of very scary movements, people trying to race through. So the intended thought is to move the light from 6th Avenue, which is essentially a 3-way functioning traffic light, to the 6th or 5th Avenue and 19th Street intersection, which would be a 4-way traffic light or intersection. That's the way it's supposed to function. Get rid of the 1-way and then have something down here. The money that we're proposing to use this doesn't cost anything to the city. It's actually coming out of New York State touring route money because it's on the touring route, so it's a 0 cost to the state of New York for this project. Or to the city of Watervliet for this project. I have some here for the council. I'll pass it away. Let's just start here.
Yeah.
I don't know how many extras I got here, but I can put one at least at every table.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
So as Joe mentioned, so we completed street and traffic counts at 3 intersections at 6th, 5th, and 4th along 19th Street. Based on that traffic study, there is more volume of traffic occurring at 5th Street than there is 6th. So as far as reallocating the signal to 5th instead of 6th, the traffic does back that up. A lot of traffic that comes out on 5th Street from the south to the north, we expect will shift to 4th because they're just using the signal to be able to get out of those neighborhoods. What you're looking at here is a conceptual plan. Since we're already going to be doing work at this intersection, some of those crosswalks that are there, and certainly that's a very common crossing location for pedestrians. We're looking at potentially doing some curb extensions here, realigning and shortening some of those crosswalks. So really the discussion point, beyond just any questions you have about the signal relocation, is your thoughts on the curb extensions, and should we be doing all 4 of those, or are there corners that we should be prioritizing? The other thing I'll note is that our traffic study shows that the right turn lane that's currently on 5th heading southbound isn't required, especially since we're moving the signal there. So one of the curb extensions you see, extends into where that right turn lane currently is. So this would realign crosswalks, shorten the crossing distance. It does eliminate 2 of the parking spots on 19th. But other than that, it doesn't have a significant impact to parking on 19th, and I think would really create some additional traffic calming around that intersection. It'd be similar to the curb extensions that already exist on 19th and 6th.
You say curb extensions, bump outs.
Bump outs. Bump outs, curb extensions,
Just want to.
same thing.
So we would be adding to the bump outs.
Yeah, so currently at this intersection, there are no bump outs. They exist at 6th and 19th, and we'd be leaving those even when we remove the signal. But here we're proposing adding the bump outs, which also just helps us place the signal pole a little bit better. But more significantly is it makes the crossings a little bit more safe.
Because I know we've kind of talked about those bump outs here and there and how the plowing is a bit of an issue. So.
Because basically, we didn't want the bumps. Everybody seems to find them to be a problem all the way around. So we're doing that for the safety. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of a design thing. I mean, curb extensions do have, they are a little bit trickier for plows, right? We want to make sure we design them so that they're a little outside the travel lane, so they kind of protect the parking lane. A lot of times you find that people are like, oh, we'll make them at 8 foot so that they line up with the parking lane, but then plows run into them. So we put them a little bit tighter to the curb so that plows have that little bit of buffer and distance, so they're less likely to run into them. You can also put up like those orange markers so that you have that vertical indication during winter months when you're doing plowing. That's certainly something that can be easily incorporated into the plan. But by putting pedestrians out past the parked cars, directly adjacent to the travel lane, both vehicles have the sight distance and can see the pedestrian waiting to cross. Pedestrians can better see oncoming vehicles. And it really shortens what we call the exposure time or the exposure distance the pedestrian has actually in the travel lane.
But one of the other safety features about the bump outs specifically here is, Lindsay mentioned about having people out further in the curves. What this does, and if you see how the road lanes actually line up, if you sit on this corner and watch some of the scary movements that happen, you may see from time to time one car going and one car chasing to get into that lane, so they're following this person. By tightening that intersection, you're making that one lane function to the best of its ability, so you don't have that secondary car sneaking behind. So I think the bump outs here are rightful with the installation of the new traffic lane.
Yeah, and also what we're showing here is bump outs on all 4 corners. We don't necessarily have to do that too. So if there's a priority of one crossing or one approach, this isn't an all or nothing proposal. We could do 2 of them, we could do 3, we could do 4, one of them. So really just looking for your thoughts.
Yeah, would the traffic light have the, where it's no turn on red, and then it has the signals on the 4 corners, like that counts down like 30 seconds when
The pedestrian signals, yes. That is basically a requirement at this point when you're putting in a new signal to have that pedestrian signal. So yes, that would be here. Would we necessarily have a no right turn on red? That would be worked out as we figure out exactly what the signal timing is and the phasing. But yes, the pedestrian signals would be going in.
So the reason for tonight is to show you what we've been working on. If you have any concerns, questions, please email Lindsay or I. If you suggest any changes, we can certainly look at them as to how they would be designed. But along with this change here at 19th and 5th, you're going to also see 2 options for 4th Avenue by the Dunkin' Donuts. This is one of the things that I brought to Lindsay's attention as well, is the queuing for Dunkin' Donuts comes out into 9th Street and it goes back up 4th Avenue. So I think if we're making roadway improvements on 5th, it might be the right time for a circulation pattern study, review, because it's going to give us a couple options here for 4th Avenue, because it isn't extra wide. It's probably widest as 16th Street, which is a double wide with a boulevard. Hence the boulevard potential there to split that street with some other intersection improvements, but I don't want to say everything we did. But this is just a way to stop the queuing onto 19th Street from Dunkin' Donuts when people are waiting to get a cup of coffee. So that's I'll let you.
Yeah, so presented here really are 2 alternatives to resolve that particular issue. And again, with the traffic light being closer to the intersection of 4th, I think there might be a little bit more opportunity here. So the concepts that I worked up is 2 concepts. One is to make that last section of 4th Street one-way northbound. So anyone looking to access that section of 4th Street or the Dunkin' Donuts would come down 5th and then come around and up 4th Street. The other option was to basically 4th Ave, sorry. And the other option was to create basically a median that can be landscaped, add trees, could be hardscaped, but would essentially require anyone that wanted to go into the Dunkin' Donuts to come down 4th, turn around at the intersection and come back up. So any queuing would actually occur on 4th as opposed to on 19th Street. So those are at least two alternatives that I came up with to resolve that issue.
Now, one of the things that worries me about a boulevard in a somewhat of a commercial stretch, you'll see it purposely up in here at, just as it go past exit 6 to get on, and you remember the Dunkin' Donuts and the Verizon store?
Yes.
Well, when the state put that Verizon, or the state put that median in there, one of the concerns as a planner up at the town was, you're gonna kill the light in that mall, and it just did exactly that. This doesn't have that concern here because it has the capability to get into the commercial activity, but it also preserves the residential side of this roadway by putting that median in. So that option, I think, is viable, but does not do what it did up there. I know you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about. It's awful up there.
It killed that mall,
Yeah,
you know.
terrible. Well, definitely, I'm going to suggest that we do a field study at Dunkin' Donuts. Why
My
you're
kids will
there.
be right there with you.
Why you're there. Okay. All right, well, it gives us something to look at. We definitely have to. What's the timetable?
This actually is touring route money too, because it's in that same area. So again, it wouldn't be any cost to the city because we take it right out, just like our chips. When we do our chips improvement, the highway improvement, this touring money will be paying for this improvement as well. We'll be adding curbs at that time, so it goes along with our ADA compliancy that we have to do within the city. So it checks off a number of boxes. These projects will check off a number of boxes.
Right.
Feedback on the curb ramps and whether you want to install all or some or none of the curb ramps, I think is the bigger priority because once we have that decision, we can move forward with the signal design, and that's a lengthier time. So I think that between the two, that would be my request is you give me feedback on that
Now,
first.
correct me if I'm wrong. I think we were looking at having all that completed to go out to RFP somewhere about May, June, and then start the work. You think we can get it in this year, correct?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah,
If we get moving on it quickly, we could get all of this work done this year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lindsay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We're going to now move into a public hearing because we'll wait for your presentation till later. We'll go into the old business, right? There's no.
We're going to move the old business down because that's part of my presentation. And again, we'll be going into residential talking.
All right, so you want to do the new business?
Yes.
We'll go into new business?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And we'll go in for the first of the public hearings?
Just to call the public hearings. Explain what they're for. No, we're going to do that. Oh, okay. So you want to do the minutes first, I'm sorry. Did we already do those?
No, sorry, we didn't. You got that, look. We'll go into the minutes. Sir Clerk, to read the minutes of the previous meeting, please.
Mayor, I will make a motion that we dispense with the reading of the minutes of the January 4th meeting.
Second motion.
Okay. A motion was made and second to dispense with it. Please call the roll.
Councilman Dawes,
In favor.
Councilwoman Diamond,
Favor?
Mayor Patricek.
In favor. Okay, I give up. What's next?
Who's up first?
We'll call for public hearings.
I'll call for a public
Explain our
hearing.
tap.
We're calling for public hearings for February 15th, 2024, to begin at 6 p.m. The first is a public hearing for the 2020 Community Development Block Grant Housing Rehabilitation Grant Program. The second is for the 2020 Community Development Block Grant Public Facilities Grant Program. And the third is for local law number 1 for 2024, which is to amend chapter 168-1.2.
Okay.
That's
Just call for the meetings on February. So if you want to come back for those meetings, you're welcome to as well. All right, we'll move into the next one, the resolution, please.
The next order of business is resolution number 13 for 2024. This is a resolution approving a contract extension agreement for consulting and management services between the City of Watervliet and MFCS LLC for a period of 2 years commencing on September 1st, 2023 and ending on August 31st, 2025, and further authorizing and directing Mayor Charles B. Patricelli to execute same.
I'll make a motion on resolution 13 for 2024.
And I will second it.
This resolution here is to extend the consulting services we have with MCFS Company. In the RFP that we sent out, which we had several responses, it did have extension language in it, and we're going to go to that extension language within the original RFP and put on the final 2 years of that RFP with MCFS, and that's what this is. It's to extend that contract within the boundary of the original RFP.
Okay.
Anything on that? Okay, call the roll.
Councilman Dawes?
In favor.
Councilwoman Diamond?
In favor?
Mayor Patricelli?
In favor.
Next order of business is resolution number 14 for 2024. This is a bond resolution dated January 25th, 2024 of the Council of the City of Watervliet authorizing not to exceed $879,786 aggregate principal amount of serial general obligation bonds and the expenditure of available funds to finance the acquisition of existing streetlights throughout the city from National Grid and the conversion to and installation of energy-efficient light-emitting diode LED fixtures. Said amount to be offset by any grants received at an estimated maximum cost of $879,786. Levy of tax and annual installments in payment thereof, the expenditure of such sum for such purpose, and the determining other matters in connection therewith, including obtaining a letter of credit.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we move on resolution number 14 for 2024.
Second one.
So if you recall, back in, I believe, November, we had originally passed a resolution very similar to this, which then got rescinded when we issued a letter of credit. The unfortunate part is I didn't intend the letter of credit to cover the entire thing, just the portion that's being funded by the FRB grant. We do still need to take out some financing for the streetlight project, so this is the reintroduction of that.
Okay, so can you explain the breakdown of the streetlight grant and what is it costing?
I'm sorry.
Ballpark, we're around 600, isn't it?
It's $600,000 to purchase the streetlights, I believe.
With 600 to purchase the streetlights, we were receiving 300,000 from FRB.
From FRB, yep.
That's the full amount, right?
Is that correct?
I mean, it was the full amount that we're getting from there, whatever it was, three something.
Yes.
Yeah, 60, I think it was, something of that nature.
Okay. And then the pay down to that is a savings from the grant, from the cost of National Grid's
Service.
energy.
Well, it will be, but at this point, we're not using it for that because we haven't pocketed the money yet, and therefore
Right.
we have a year to pay it.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Because we're expecting 100 and,
I think it was like about 142 or something like that. Don't quote me on that dollar amount, but it was a six-figure number, like within the 120s, 140s.
Yeah, it's going 130, but.
Was it? Yeah.
130 something.
for reduction
For savings.
and for savings.
What I do plan to do is,
A year.
it's part of my conversation I'll talk about later, but I guess I'll segue to that now. There's 41 light poles left to do on the entire project. As they're going through and doing sections of them, I think to date, there's 75 light poles that have been installed of all the original old ones. 75 that have been installed, and then going through punch list, and Centrica has accepted the work, and they've contacted National Grid. So they're going to give me, at the closeout of this, I can test back to the National Grid bills at that point and we'll try to monitor that as we go forward. But that's going to be part of my closeout is getting when was National Grid notified, and then testing back to the bill that we were not billed after that fact.
Yeah, because they'll adjust the electric usage based upon from sodium vapor to the LED.
Okay, I stopped taking all that stuff in school, so I imagine it would, yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know about delivery charges or those type of things. That's gonna be the true test is what they're bringing back to us. You know, if there's a different wattage, a different use, whatever it may be, what's our savings there? So,
Okay. Okay. Mostly everything has been positive comments on the installations that I received. You received from me 4 issues.
Yep,
So,
and they've been pretty responsive to converting them.
yeah. So I don't know if you've got any others besides what I've sent you, but that's pretty good as far as I'm concerned, as far as the work that they've done.
Yeah, I'll finish up on the Centrica later.
Okay. All right.
340 was the award.
Was the award for FRD?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions? If not, call the roll.
Councilman Dawes?
Favor?
Councilwoman Dodd?
Favor?
Mayor Patrichello?
In favor.
Next order of business is ordinance number 1 for 2024. This is an ordinance of the city of Watervliet, New York, amending chapter 168, garbage waste, littering, and recycling of the code of the city of Watervliet.
I'll make a motion ordinance number 1 for 2024.
I will second that motion.
So you will recall last year we made a change to the same section 160. You'll recall last year we made the change to section 168-30 to set out some fees for collection of garbage that was not otherwise in compliance with the code. In reviewing the language, there was just one word to change. So we changed this article to the act naming chapter 168 of the code. It's really kind of a grammatical change as opposed to anything else. So this doesn't change the substance of the actual section. So we just ask for your approval of ordinance number 1.
Any questions on it?
Nope.
Should we just change the name?
Just changing one word, yeah.
Call the roll.
Councilman Dawes?
In favor?
Councilwoman Dodd?
In favor?
Mayor Patrichello?
In favor.
Your Honor, that concludes this evening's new business.
All right, thank you. Anything under appropriations and account?
I think we've covered that, Mr. Mayor.
All right, that's good. I have some things to go over. You want to do them now, or do you want to do them after?
If you'd like, then I'll go into the public comment period right after.
We did have a discussion earlier, or I had an email earlier on the Spectrum contract.
Yes. So I've reviewed the proposed Spectrum contract, and the trick when it comes to these sort of franchise fees is making sure that your definition of what the tax is going to be is as expansive as possible. So I'm in the process of comparing the definition of gross receipts that they're proposing to the definition that's contained in other contracts, just to make sure that we're getting really the most expansive potential revenue for the city. So with that, once I get through that particular issue, I think it'll be the rest of the issues will be very minor, but the main driver is the definition of gross receipts.
Okay. Would you mind responding to
I do not mind responding to him.
I mean, that way there, you. Okay. Thank you. Let's see. Joe and I, we talked about the DRI. We are working on a plan to address the DRI, correct?
Yes, we are. In fact, I spoke to a gentleman by the name of Michael Di Giuseppe, and we're going to put that into a crisper, cleaner format than we've had in the past, and then work with Lindsay to update some of the mapping that she's had within it, so we can make sure all that is a different design than we've had in the past 2 submissions. But it will be a cleaner submission. I talked with him last week. He does several newsletters. I can see some websites. He actually works on some of them. He came to me through a person I know and does some incredible work. And he's put together a proposal for us, which I hope to bring to the council on the 15th of February to engage them.
Do we know what the submission date is, or is that yet to be?
We haven't seen the NOFA come out or any type of announcing. I think it's typically about May or June with the
Yeah,
July.
they just so awarded, yeah,
Yeah.
that's usually the time
So
frame.
we're in good time frame to get this thing going, to be ready for when it comes out. Because once it comes out, you only have 30 days. So I want to have this all completed by May
Yes.
to go forward.
And we still, do we need to contact Scott?
On the
Well, because
restaurant.
Well, the restaurant, which is all part
Or
of the
Scott's,
DRI.
in the DRI, Scott's going to have, we're going to put a verbiage about the $4 million investment.
Correct.
Yeah, we're going to put, we're going to have hopefully some showcases, which we haven't in the past, some of the reinvestment into the, to the two projects that you remember, Selby's and so on.
Correct.
Although gas station and convenience store, it was still investment. One was 1.2 million, I don't know what we're doing over here. We're putting that in, and we're also putting in the Geno's proposal, how it came to the land bank, going into private hands. He's estimating about a $345,000 investment that he's trying to do. We met with the gentleman recently who's doing, which was the old Daisies and Owls. He's putting together a budget for us, but he's looking to put in possibly a deli or a wine store, a liquor store there, so there's another reinvestment. I'm trying to work now with the Korean church, because they have all the intentions to buy the former Morelli's. I'm trying to coax them into putting a storefront there for their membership, which would be great because that'll kind of diversify our municipality. And then we expanded the DRI. That's why Lindsay will be helping me with the mapping, but we're expanding the DRI to go out 2 streets. So before it was 19 stopping at the back end of 23rd Street, right at the end of Price Chopper. I want to extend it to the back end, the northern end of 23rd Street, to include the new storefronts that are opening around there. So that's the intent of the DRI.
Just another, you got anything?
No, so that would be great. That's a lot of big area. That would be great.
Yeah.
Just to announce, we did have a Historic Preservation Award, an historic recognition to Gus's Hot Dogs. They, for their years of service here in establishing a business, we did that last week, and a presentation was made to them. This is through John McDonald, and another presentation will be made early February for Acme Reedy, another one that was recognized. Several businesses were written to, suggesting that they can apply for this. And basically, it's just to give narratives and some history on their business. But it has to meet certain criteria, and those 2 businesses that stepped forward and were recognized. Just to let you know, too, that we just document the fact is that last 2 weeks ago, I think we had a meeting with a group of landlords to discuss some issues that were basically city interests and their interests, and basically probably the majority of it was regarding trash. I think we accomplished a lot by their input, and we'll continue to work on what they suggested, what we're looking at, and also meeting again. That was on that. We are implementing the new garbage policies about how trash is being picked up and the fines. We kind of changed the fine type of, let's say, levels, right? We did this already. We also are working on how trash is being picked up, whether or not everything will be picked up, but if it's not in accordance with the normal guidelines that we have, those in violation will receive a violation notice. But the garbage will be picked up, so it's not left around the city. Right, we have that. And I think we did an initial inspection, about 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, that first week in January we did, yes.
About three weeks ago. It was after Christmas, after New Year's, but we did it afterwards. And I believe there were about 500 violations that were actually written up. And they're all receiving sort of a warning notice.
We're changing that a little bit in consultation with Brian. We're not sending specifically to just those 500, we're sending to everybody in the city about the new policy. and the new fine mechanism, because if they weren't part of this original warning notice, they would have the capability to say, well, you gave them a warning notice and you're fining me, so now everybody knows about it at the first shot, next time we institute the fine. So that'll go out to every household property owner.
Good, very good.
That's it, I'll take that off too.
All right, good. You can go back on it if you want. Just a couple of things that are going on here. It's a little further away, but I just put out the notice on it that we're going to have our annual Build-A-Bed at March 16th. That's going to be at the Dome. We had that, scheduled. We normally never have a problem with volunteers, so that's usually a pretty good event that a lot of people like being part of. You'll see notices going out on Facebook to sign up, for certain slots, but basically we have that. And then the only other, I believe, the thing that we have is the car show that's in May. Again, that's kind of far away, but it's already been scheduled, so that's all I have. Anybody have anything else?
While you talked about that, Lindsay, we're starting our path. We're saying first frost, but hopefully early spring, which is going to be that April time frame. The card show is when now?
I mentioned that to May 16th or 11th
Yeah.
or something.
So May 16th is a hard and fast deadline. My anticipation would be, they canceled the car show last year because they ripped up all the pavement on the walking trail. So if we can figure out a timeline for maybe installation, I don't know, what's our bed, is our base going to be crusher run and then
It'll be stone and then asphalt pavement.
Okay.
I don't have Carver's work plan yet, and they'll have their
Okay.
schedule of when they're doing what. I should have that within the next week or two, so I will make sure
yeah, send it to me because the
with the
best
May
thing-
16th, you'll get it too, but I'll review it as far as this May 16th date and
Yeah.
work with them to make sure that we don't have a
Because
conflict.
best case scenario, in order to preserve the integrity of these cars that are, kind of older and so on, if we can get to a crusher run, and even if we had to do a 2-inch or an inch shale dust, and then go binder, or if we get to binder for the show, that would be perfect. Then they could, easily park on it or do whatever without a lot of damage.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll certainly review their schedule with the state in mind and work with them to make sure we don't have a conflict.
Thank you.
Just to also let you know, I don't know if you've been down in the park, but already one of those poles has been hit.
I'll be talking about something else going on down there too.
Okay. All right. It's at a 45-degree angle. I'll assume so. All right. Other than that, we'll move into the public comment period.
Nope. We're going to actually go just to make a couple of comments from general manager, so sorry.
Oh, that's first.
You took off a number of things on my list here anyway, presentation, the warning notice, a couple of other items, landlord meeting and so on. Down at Hudson Shores, I was coming home from Albany from a land bank meeting, and I noticed this light show that was happening in Hudson Shores. I don't know if anyone's called you or anything like that. Every one of our lights, and I've already talked to Billy O'Brien about it, but they're flashing, flashing. It's like there's that organ thing. But anyway, you start to see these lights flashing. It caught me by surprise.
Street lights? What lights?
No, the lights in our park, Hudson Shores
Oh.
Park.
Oh, sorry.
And being that they're all daisy chained, there might be a shortage of a wire somewhere within that loop. So that's going to be something we didn't plan on, within any budgetary expenditure. But we need to see what that's going to be. The other thought I had was we saved 10 of the candle globe lights, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent. Billy thinks that some of those might have already been LED. So I've called Executive, which is the company doing the lights. I asked for 10 or 12, whatever we got left. And I'd like to see is maybe replace those so we have the globe instead of just the spotlight. I don't know. We just got to look at it because there are a couple of them up the early part of it. But I'll come back to you on that one. But yeah, so if you see the flickering lights or if you get called, it's already been addressed. We're looking into that.
I was down there during the day, and the lights were off, except for that one. I
That
didn't
one
notice.
again, that's got to be something with that timer.
But the one on the bath, not the bath, restaurant's house, there's a light facing south on the building that's flashed.
You know, you should check, Joe, is the bathrooms itself, because a lot of them lights years ago were put on like an alarm system, but there was flooding or
Yeah.
something in the bathroom. Like people at your house, they have their lights set up to flash. And I think years ago, I don't know if they still have it, the bathrooms were on some kind of flashing system,
Okay.
where if there's an issue or something in the bathroom,
Yeah.
with flooding in the control room, that room off to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Just
All right, we'll take a
check
peek at that. We'll take a peek at that. The other thing I have engaged Bill O'Brien on, I was gonna use executive, who was doing our streetlights, was that accident one on 19th Street up by your house there, Amanda? It is an accident report, it's a claim report that Dave's filed with our insurance company. Bill went up the night of the accident because the wires were arcing, so he disconnected or capped those and did what he had to do. Bill's gonna take that forward and get the new pole, get the light head that he has. As of today, he's still having problems finding that type of pole, so we'll make a decision when the time comes. But he's on that job. I think I spoke to you last week about the final community center, all the work that was done there. And final billing is going in for that project to DHCR. I met today with DOT specific to the relocation of the 378 bridge. And what I brought to their attention is something that they didn't realize after they did a stakeholders meeting, was all the development that was happening at the Louisi project and potentially Adirondack Steel traffic and the Altech project. And the group that were there from DOT had no understanding as to the road, the bypass road was to alleviate First Street. It was in the Town of Colony's BOA application, and I've been pushing for that for many, many, many years. Louisi has already built the first extension, but the connection to 155 to come down, to go on to the Louisi property and stay off Lincoln and stay off of First, they've embraced it. I showed them pictures of it and so on. They're going back to their offices, making sure that counts and everything are taken for this 378. They had no understanding either of the fact that, or they did, but they didn't realize that the potential development was Regeneron coming and Beacon Communities now coming across the way. So they got to increase their counts there. But if anything, we preserve the integrity of First Street by getting it on their radar to make sure they push for that bypass road.
When you talk about 378, is that what the bypass road is going to go from like First Street all the way over to 378?
No, so the bypass road actually stays on Louisi's project and parallels the railroad track. We had that all designed up at the Town of
Yes, I
Colony.
remember talking about that.
Yeah, so that goes along the railroad track. You get a curb cut, if you will, or a railroad crossing, if you will, that you plan for, but you can also come out and then go right into Louisi's property, or you take a quick right and you go down the slip road, and then you go into where it terminates, it goes into FedEx. There was lands, there was right-of-ways. I don't think, unfortunately, when we learned the right-of-ways were not preserved, but we know the connection between the two property rights would be the same owners, so that ramp could potentially be the best that'll go there. We got it on their radar so they could plan for it, and then hopefully that preserves the city of Watervliet. But what I also did, talking to DOT, was talking about the 15th Street area where the fencing has come so close to the Mohawk, or the Empire Trail, along with our bike path. Now, I pushed the issue that when they did, if you all know where exit 5 is on the Adirondack Northway in Latham. You know that sound wall that
Yes.
was built there. Federal regulations, because they moved 200 feet closer to residential, they put that sound barrier in there. That was for capacity, because they were adding traffic to that area to come out. I asked for that wall, not only for our Hudson Shores project today, but also for a safety net by our area right coming out of City Hall. They didn't think a sound wall would fly from DOT perspective, but they said a safety wall is possible, which is what you see going down the whole way of the median. It's a cord, like a Jersey barrier, if you will. So they're going to bring that back to try to see what type of application we have to apply for, because they do agree that that curvature of the bike path has now come a lot closer than it ever has, and there's not enough access where you come off the side. I told them, I said, here's my office, and they watched it from my window, and then they went and they walked it, and they see the potential for speeds. So we're going to hopefully get, what you'll see is probably like a 6 foot, no higher than a 6 foot, but like a Jersey barrier type of wall there for protection for people riding on the bike path and walking on the bike path.
How long would that go for?
I knew I was going to.
You know my dream is like,
Yeah, exactly. I told them, I said there was
beyond the
one,
woodworking
I
warehouse.
told them that there was one council person that was very passionate about that area and wanted to see something. They're just going to go back, talk to see my next steps or our next steps if we have to design something for a potential safety. It would be a DOT project because it's on their property,
Right,
but
right.
we're the asking municipality for something like that.
Well, and it's still, even by the Arsenal, that bike path is still very close to 787. Somebody
Yes.
comes off of 787, there's nothing really there to stop them
Yeah.
from coming right into the road.
Yeah, the guide rail's not properly placed, in my opinion. So-
Yeah, because guide rails don't stop, but the
Guide rail, that's why it's guide.
Right, it's to push you
Not
somewhere,
guard.
but anyway, I got in DOT's ear thinking that was our opportunity, seeing they came here on one of their projects. I thought we could engage them on a couple of ours. So with that, I'd like to go into the findings that were asked of me to do regarding 2307 10th Avenue. And then I'm sure there's a number of people here that want to speak to that as well. Okay, so,
They may not be the only people who want to speak on.
right, yeah, I'm assuming there'll be, so we'll take a list of names if you don't mind. So if you remember at last meeting, Mr. Parvez came and then was reading off of this document here that I have before me, and then he sent it to me in an email. He made several attempts at findings. He gave us dates of certain ownership and so on. Some of these are factual, some of these are not. So there is one thing that's true that we know in this property. And actually I met with the owner the other day during our fire inspection and went over some of the things moving forward about the property. Back in the day, this was a conforming use, as it was when Mr. Flanagan, who was the owner of both properties, that was his shop, and he did a lot of work for the city, but he also did a lot of external work too. So that was the time frame of when this was an auto repair shop. And that was the designation back then, auto repair. Now, with the zoning change of our comprehensive plan, it made this project, or this site, a non-conforming use. It converted the zoning to an R2 zone, but it's a non-conforming use. Under state law standards, when it comes to zoning, you can't expand a non-conforming use via footprint. The footprint has remained the same as it was back when the Flanagans owned this property. It was also one property, I believe it was, because they lived in the home and had the property over here. But it's two designations. I couldn't find that history. It's two designations of address. 203 or 2307 10th Avenue is the rear entrance, right by all the residents that might be here. And it is, what's the address there? It's like 24 or 23 something 23rd Street. I apologize. Oh, 2307. No, that's not it. Is there anybody here who lives in the White House?
113.
What's your address?
1013.
713. 1013. So 1013 23rd is the original Flanagan home
Yes.
that owned and operated that property. Now, there was an attempt to be made as to a timeline by Mr. Parvez as to ownership, the difference between a sunsetting use of a time frame when when it reverts to that zoning that is now changed. I spoke to the owner of the property, who was Dan Mancino, who owns the auto repair shop by right, sold it to Mr. Rashid.
Yes.
Yep, he sold it to Mr. Rashid. Now, when speaking to Mr. Mancino, based on the continuation of a non-conforming use, now you can operate, when your zoning changes and it puts you into non-conformancy, you have to maintain that use consecutively. You cannot let it lapse more than a year, not only by city law, but it's New York State law. But some municipalities say it's a 6-month use or it's a year. Town of Colleen was 18 months. We actually extended that another 6 to keep it in conforming use. So we have a year, so you're correct on that. But the difference is that Mr. Mancino was the owner of record all the way through the sale to Mr. Rashid. And the use was continued by Mr. Mancino all these years. He used his Acme radiator business in the 10th Avenue opening during that entire time, when Ferraro's was there, and even when Mr. Falzo was a tenant of record. Now, we had no record of Mr. Falzo as a tenant. I can't understand why.
For a year.
I'm sorry?
Mr. Falzo was there for a year.
He was here for a year.
Lawrence Ray for a year.
Okay, just let me finish and we'll open up all those comments and then we'll try to reiterate after those. Okay? So Mr. Mancino had Mr. Falzo in, who was a tenant in that area, and he had storage inside and both outside. Probably not the way it should have been done. We should have had a business plan and so on, but we have no record of Mr. Falzo being there. Now, the city of Watervliet and every other municipality does not care about any relationship, to my knowledge, of what a tenant landlord agreement is. I know Mr. Parvez brought up the issue here that he was there for more than a year illegally without a certificate of occupancy. I think that is the truth to this component, but we do not care that he was paying rent to Mr. Mancino under the table. That is not something we take up here at this municipality, not our issue. So, that being said, Mr. Mancino was still operating that wing when he had a vehicle that needed a lift, or he had to take an engine out or do something there. He's got, I forgot what he told me, a 10,000 pound crane there, or 10,000, what's that lift? It's that poundage, but he used that lift to do work in his business. Therefore, technically keeping the non-conforming use of an auto repair shop. So the illegality that Mr. Rashid is operating his business, in my view of this and my understanding and operations of the last 18 years doing zoning code and planning, this to me meets the criteria of the continuation of a non-conforming use, because it was always auto repair. Not auto body repair, auto repair. Okay? And we'll have a time to listen to everybody after this. So, I say that because one of the arguments Mr. Rashid is, or I'm sorry, Mr. Parvez is making is that the previous use was for storage only. There was no record that it was for storage on our books. Again, it might have been a city issue, we didn't follow that up at the time, but the continuation of the automotive repair was still continuing by my interview that I had with Mr. Mancino. He's the owner of record, so I took his word as to the operations, and everything that I could find here on paper supports those decisions. Now, that answers the zoning, that answers all the one-year vacancy because it was a continuation of a non-conforming. There was no vacancy, there was no turnover of operations or anything. It was always a continued use based on the questions I asked of Mr. Mancino. Now, new owner is illegally selling cars. I've had no record of that. I've sat with my own personal vehicles several times to my wife's chagrin because I put our vehicle at risk. But anyway, I sat on 23rd Street several times throughout this document that I got here and could identify no record of car sales. We did not see it. I did not see it, I should say. And I talked to the chief about it, and he did not know of anything either. But again, as to the far of the illegality, I cannot confirm this. The other thing we were asked to look at was the storage, outside storage, which we'll talk about the inspection report, and Mr. Rashid can attest to what we talked about as well. Car painting in a non-zone building pollutes toxins affecting the area, residential health, and the port quality. The current ownership put a hole in the building with a pipe extending out for ventilation to my residential yard. Now, one of the reasons I went to the inspection, code enforcement inspection for fire on the 23rd was with this in mind, because we heard this on the 1st, I think it was, of January, when he spoke at the public comment period. One of my roles in going not only was to support Paul as a code official, but was specifically looking for anything that could support the use of a car body shop, an auto body shop, not auto repair, because that would extend the use, which is illegal, cannot do. We would have had the right to shut that part of the business down because it wasn't approved for at that time. There was no, and I say absolutely no, visual equipment. In fact, you could even attest, I was looking at some of your equipment and asking what it was for. There was no physical equipment that showed paint spray. There was no tarps. There was no room to separate the building to make it a clean room, which you need as a paint shop. There was no record of any ventilation to get those fumes because I think he would have a health and safety risk internally for his own employees. But the vent itself was done facing your residential area, which in fact it's true. It was actually the air intake pipe going to the heating system. So no fumes are going out, all fumes are being sucked in, air is being sucked in for the efficiency of that heating unit. And in fact, we said it was disconnected, that the violation that showed, he has to have it reinstalled by February 14th. So it's not external fumes going out, internal air was coming in, and that pipe was hooked up directly to the heating system. So that talks to that component. We already talked about this, that the vacant building was more than. 7 Stars does not have an active permit to sell vehicles. We already talked about that. I can't attest to the fact that they are there. Again, we talked about the no rent. So I think we've hit everything that Mr. Parvez talked about here, and I'm sure you will speak to immediately. Now, I can say this came to me, or us, this body, with the allegations against Mr. Rashid, if there are allegations. I think it's his component. I talked to a couple of residents myself who will be unnamed. And what also came out was there might be activity of Mr. Parvez working on vehicles in his property, which is the corner building, which I did not see in my 2 days or 3 days that I sat on these properties, but I will be sitting on more to see if that allegation is in fact true. Now, finally, let's get to where we are with code enforcement. On the 23rd, we went in for a fire inspection, but also visually looking at these complaints and how I could verify or whatever here. I think I articulated that fairly well. The fire inspection did find some violations. There was some, there needed to be smoke detectors, there needed to be fire suppression, there needed to be some fire extinguishers, those were out of date. Everything is listed here on the fire inspection report that he failed, and we will be going back on February 14th at 9 a.m. to make sure that these items were fixed. And then the one thing we added on here for the reinspection, or actually two things. One, there was some storage out in the front, the 23rd Street exit, where there was some materials stored. We asked them to clean that up and said no storage, outside storage. And then was the parking by code. And on the business plan, his hours of operation that was approved was a 6-day-a-week, 9 to 5 operation. That will be detailed on the certificate of occupancy when we submit to him. So we have, if he's working past the hours of 9 to 5, Monday through Saturday, he is going against his approvals, and we could have the ability to go there. Now, in the code,
Joe, would you repeat that?
I'm sorry?
You said 9 to 5.
9 to 5, Monday through Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if he extended beyond,
They can be extended if he comes back to zoning to request it. So he has every right to extend,
requested.
request an extension. Now, 272, Article 9, Supplement Development Standards, supplemental. There is a section of Code 272-58, off-street parking and loading. Specific into one of this, which is Schedule C of it, it details automotive repair. Again, I think I mentioned several times, this is approved as an automotive repair site, and you are allowed 3 cars per bay. When walking through the site, we see 5 bays. So he's allowed 15 cars on that parking lot by code. We found 19 cars. We spoke with Mr. Rashid on it. That will be codified on the certificate of occupancy with the intent that these will be detailed on the certificate of occupancy, his hours of operation, and the number of cars allowed on his site. Like I said, 15 is allowed by code, and we have, this is the way it's said, 3 cars per bay. Now, if you go in, 1 bay is used as storage currently. He has the right to clear out that bay to maintain the 3 cars, but it does not tell code enforcement or any approving body, which is a zoning board, if it's appealed, that he could limit the number of cars per bay. What I mean by that is we can't say, well, you only got 4 functioning bays, you're limited to 12. By right, 5 bays, 3 cars per bay, 15 cars can be parked in that parking lot. Okay? Now, I think I got something here too about, I know I printed it out, I hope I got it. I think there's a misnomer as to rights of an ability of parking on a street. I know where I put this one. I put this one on the, I put that zone on the food vending cart. I apologize. There is a thing on the street that it is for use for residential parking. It doesn't mean you can have a parking space in front of your home. It means you can have use of the city street on that street to which your car faces. It has been told that cars came out, and I know Mr. Parvez has sent us several videos to support cars being backed out, put on the street. There are 3, maybe 5, I think, occasions where it does look like work was being done on the street. In the zoning verification that we are going to give, along with the certificate of occupancy, will be putting in there in the notation, no car repair on city streets. So hopefully that will do that as well. Now, I think I've done a pretty in-depth review of the comment letter we got from Mr. Parvez, and with the interest of time going into our public comment period, I know our clerk will read the rules and responsibilities of a public comment period to be 2 minutes. So if there's any questions of me before we turn it over, I think we did a pretty thorough review. I'm hoping we did. I think we've answered everything. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to.
And I think I know parking has been an issue. I think one of the other items that probably was going down Glen Ave.
9th Street, or
How about we do
23rd.
this, instead of just talking directly, because I'd like to get everything at least onto the record. We won't have any comments yet until they come up. I know you could ask the questions so they could,
Glen Avenue was one of the concerns of cars going down Glen Ave. But again, I don't think there's much. I think it was the speed and that kind of thing. He's aware of that. But I think that was the only one that was not brought up.
yeah, I did see that in the use of Glen, I did not see, but I'll certainly, as this I assume is going to be an ongoing
Discussion.
issue or discussion until we resolve it. We'll take it, we'll have a follow-up at the next meeting.
Okay. Go ahead, Dave.
At this time, the council, mayor and the council have authorized a public comment period. If you wish to address the council, we ask that you please step forward, state your name and address for the record, and you will have 2 minutes with which to address the council.
Okay, we're going to open up the public hearing. People will be able to step up. Ron, you want to? Sure. You want to go? You want to go first? Just I want to make sure that we are aware. I know there's a number of people here that would like to speak. And not so much in the sense of time, but like give everybody who wants to speak a chance, and you will be limited to 2 minutes. So please come on up and you can give your name, address, and your statement.
My name is Ron Campbell. I live at 1433 First Ave. There was, first of all, I'd like to apologize. I thought that the handicap spot that the permit I applied for was for my use only. And I erected a sign. I was told to take it down. I triggered the thing. You have the letter, correct?
I have not seen it.
Okay, here it is now. I'd like to submit it to the council. Okay, submitting I have prosthetics according to paragraph A that's grafted to my spinal column that qualifies me for that sign. And I'd also like to propose an amendment in that because the permit was drafted as a residential parking permit for handicap, not as a public use. I have found, and I have documentation, I have photos. The last 2 days, people park there, they go over to City Hall, leave their vehicle for undetermined amount of times. I believe this law was drafted for the property owner or the resident with permission to be able to park their vehicle there to have access to their home. Well, this seems to be a contradiction within it. Other municipalities have made clear outline to be able to have it for the resident only. the signs that are erected do give the impression that it is for visitor parking. As long as you put your tag up there, you're fine. Well, that, that actually limits it's not in the spirit of why this permit is there. Perhaps we can address this issue to either reflect it with a sign that says permit parking only, have the permit number, therefore it's for that individual. And it's not confusing to someone who would park there with a handicap sign, okay? Or you can leave the existing sign and have permit and then the number, which reflects the permit that was issued for the individual for the residential handicap sign. And that's what I'd like to know. If I have to go forward with any submissions to make this happen.
I can tell you, this has to go through our police department.
He has a copy, my
Okay,
lawyer
good.
has a copy, the mayor has a copy, and I dropped a copy off to the council.
So I'll follow up with PD to see where that stands.
I appreciate it. But like I said, it qualifies according to paragraph A. And how do I know how to go through with this to be able to have the law reflect the spirit of which it was drafted?
We will discuss it. I know this has been a topic of conversations we've had with the council on this and the idea. But I'll address that in a minute. We'll get back.
You want to say?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
It's not here, you're not worried about the 2 minutes. We, just to follow up on Ron's issue here. Ron's really got 2 issues going on here. One was the fact is that we had asked the PD to verify all handicap existing signs so that they would be certainly found out if they're legal or not, if they're still in use. That also started the Sergeant Harper to go into Ron's, and ask him about whether or not he's still qualified for that was basically it. He's set on that. What the second part of it was exclusivity to that parking spot. And that started because Ron put up a sign that said for his parking only, which got the thing going.
I was wrong, I apologize.
So
I
that-
didn't know
that makes it
that it was that. I should have known better.
And I believe I did send an email about the other parking spot to make sure that we are again, when following up on those signs, to make sure that they're legal. Because one of them, I believe, was told to me, and I'm not saying that's true, but that person moved out and those signs are still there. And they should be, and if we went back and did periodic checks of those signs, we would know that. So that's what we need to make sure is still happening. Joe, are you aware of somebody being assigned to that?
Not for PD, I do not.
Well, we had mentioned that somebody from PD needed to do that.
Correct. I know we're trying to do it with ordinances when they're repealed, and as on the list that I have from Sergeant Harper, when it's done, I write off that it's been removed or not removed. So I'm trying to stay up with that, but I'll follow up with PD again to see if they've identified anyone who will do that.
And I think the biggest thing was, I don't think we were worried about whether or not they were qualified or not. I think they already got their approval on being qualified, that there were still 1 living there. 2, we found many of them deceased, no longer living there. The signs have been there for years. Yeah, nobody took them down.
I think, since we've had these conversations, I know David and I have had conversation on what information goes on that tag. So I have to work with council and ourselves about the law to figure out that and what other information, who it's, because I think you just went through a number of new ones this year, doing the new 5-year tag returns. So there might be information we could add to that data.
Okay. Next, anybody else want to speak in front of the council tonight? Go ahead.
I don't have a lot to say, but
It's,
I will fire out the mouth. Everybody's Craig. I don't have a lot to say. All right.
Nancy, don't scratch that podium.
I won't, I know, my son made it. Nancy Bond, 2325 10th Avenue. So I live down the street, not further from Glen Ave, so I don't know about the other issues. The only issue I have, so you were saying that there's 15, enough room for 15 big cars, which is perfectly okay. The problem is, you're only looking at that 23rd Street. All the cars that are being still worked on are on 10th Avenue and 24th Street and everywhere else that are set there. Like, I have a neighbor across the street that actually, and I have to tell you, they are very, very nice people, and their business, I want it to be very successful. There's nothing wrong with that. A Daveco truck sat across the street from my neighbor who uses a cane for a month, sat in front of her house because it was getting ready to be worked on. So I have absolutely no problem with all those cars being where they should be. But cars that what you probably didn't see was everything that was on the rest of this. The 5 cars that are on our side of the street parked there for a long time because they're waiting to be worked on. Sometimes, and sometimes they're beat up, sometimes they're not. And I have to be honest with you, the past week and a half, it's been a little light. The parking hasn't been. I don't know if it's because this has been going on, but I want them to be successful. I just don't. The cars are parked there for a very long time, and there's not enough room for all the people who reside there, not to park in front of the house, but just to park on the street in general. We have, and we have an empty house on the block. So there's an empty house, which no one parks, so that there's extra parking spot there. So it's not just that area where those cars are parked. The cars are actually parked everywhere else that are being worked on. That's the only issue. Like I said, I don't know anything about the pipe, because I don't live that close, that way. I live closer to the stop sign. So, and we have driveways and stuff like that, so there are plenty of places for the residents to park, but not the extra cars. Maybe 1 or 2 or 3 of the extra cars, but not 5 or 6.
Now, normally we don't make it a policy to answer questions that come back, but I think it's probably important that we do some of the ones that pop up. So specific to the cars parking on 10th Avenue,
And 24th Street.
And 23rd, that might be part of the repair business. In conversations, several conversations with PD, when we sent them out to take a look at it, these are individual cars owned by the individuals.
Oh,
Right,
no.
but, may I finish? The problem is, if we were to ticket them, it goes against the car owner, not Mr. Rashid.
So you're saying the business could take the car into...
I'm not saying anything. What I'm telling you is from the legality to try to ticket a car that might be held there, which we don't know, the ticket goes against, and if we were to tow it, it's a double-edged sword, right?
I don't
It
want
is.
them ticketed. I don't necessarily want them ticketed, I just want them moved. Like, I don't want people to have to pay. I
If we
just
were
don't
to
want
do
cars
it,
that are
if we
being
were to
worked
ticket
on.
it and it sat there for a period of time, we could have it towed.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it doesn't go on the business, it goes on the car owner.
Right.
So I don't want to say there's a reluctancy from PD to ticket or tow,
Oh.
but we're trying to figure out that better way. That is my normal route coming in every single day, and I turn immediately to the left to look to see what the cars are. I can't tell you what cars are on the street, but there has not been any evidence of work being done on the street.
Oh, no,
And
I agree
the other
with that.
side is you're absolutely right. The last couple of days have been light on 10th Avenue, and some owners on the 10th Avenue side have not moved their car during that last snowstorm because you could tell there was snow on
They
it.
weren't our cars. They
No,
were the
no, I'm
residents'
just saying.
cars. But
So-
they weren't the residents' cars, that's what I'm trying to say.
I did
too.
take the plates down to find out who they are, so I'll be having conversations with them.
Yeah.
But anyway, I know the parking has been light over the past couple of days. Could it have been because of the notification? I don't know. But there were 0 cars being stored within that garage, if that were the case. So they weren't pulling them out of the garage and leaving them there while cars were being worked on, as we were alluding to.
Honestly, I don't know what they do.
So-
I don't know, I just know that there's
Yeah.
cars that stay there for a very long period of time.
Yeah,
And they don't move, and they are being worked on, and as I said, I want the business
Yeah.
to be successful. It's just that parking them on the street for a very long period of time and taking the parking spots of the residents when it's a business, when there's all of that parking area is where they should be. And I think I'd love to go in all of them in 2 minutes, and I don't need to. So I'm going to go sit down. But that, like I said, it's just it's where the parking is. That's all.
Yeah, I won't be answering any more questions.
Thank you, Nancy. Anyone next?
Jen Weaver. I live at 2420 10th. So I live about a block down from them. I actually live next door to his house. And the issue we're finding is that they bring work cars home and park them on the street, which I get, and I'm a complete advocate for public parking, public street. However, they like to bring business cars home and park them in front of the house. Now, with the passing of Mike Brenny's house, that does create actually some extra parking, but that's not where they want to park them. So a lot of our neighbors get together and are very angry with them because, and they wouldn't have so much of a problem actually if they used some of those spare spots. That's not where they want to park. They want to park them in front of their house. And it creates a lot of animosity. And it doesn't help that they're business cars they're bringing home. Half the time, there's no plates on them. They're not registered or inspected or any of that. Because at times they get towed because some of the neighbors call. Or they'll slap a dealer plate on them. Whatever the case may be. But there's not enough parking as it is. So then, when you're taking the spots in front of the houses, it creates a lot of problems. And, you know, it's just unnecessary. If it's business, it should be with the business. And I get it's in walking distance. And it doesn't help that on the front lawn, they park a tow dolly. It's my understanding that, well, first off, that's not a lawn ornament. It looks awful. They took out a hedge, put in a wheelchair ramp, and a tow dolly sits there. The grass grows up past your knees, through the tow dolly, before it gets mowed. It just looks atrocious. And that's what we look at every day. If you need pictures, I can show pictures. You know, between the parking, the tow dolly, I mean, we just gotta do better. I mean, there's no other way around that. I don't particularly mind them as a neighbor, but take the business cars to the business when there's not enough parking as it is, or be courteous enough and park down by Mike Crenny's lot.
Right.
You know, that's all.
Thank you, Jen.
Thanks.
I don't actually live in Watervliet. I'm speaking on behalf of my friend who lives at 13th, 23rd Street. She's still on where I live.
You're speaking where?
I'm speaking for my friend Sherry, who lives at 1013.
Can you speak up?
Not really, I'm sorry. I'm just getting over that whatever's been going around. Okay, so anyway, some of the questions that...
Did you give your name? Did you give her?
No name.
Natalie Simmons, sorry.
Natalie, I'm sorry, can I get your address for the record, please?
Okay, 25 Mickle Hill Road, Troy, New York, 12180.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so a lot of the cars that are parked in that lot do not have plates on them. There's days, because I'm there once a week at least, visiting, that hasn't been one car in that lot that had plates on it. I just don't know anybody who drops their car off to get fixed and takes their plates with them. Do you know, it just doesn't seem like, and they're not really moving. Shouldn't they be worked on and gone? Like, shouldn't there be a certain, like, within a few days? I don't know. They seem like they're just there, and I know that my friend's got a rodent problem now that she never had before. She's been there over 20 years. Rodent, mice, yeah. And it's because, and I've seen them run. when I pull up sometimes from those cars, because they've been there a while, some of them. I mean, it can happen to anybody in the winter, I get that. I live out in the country, we're everywhere. But, okay, so that was one of the things. And then the residential parking. Isn't it for residents, right?
Yes.
Okay, so, I mean, residents should be able to park on the streets. They have a lot to park for the business. Okay. And another question was, there was fumes coming out of that building. Maybe it wasn't from the pipe, maybe it was from when they opened the door. Some things were going on that had a lot more fumes than what an auto body that is just repair shop. Something else was going on. I don't know, did anybody else that smelled them? But there's definitely an issue. The other thing is, it's an eyesore. Isn't there something in code too that like they can put some kind of fencing up or like that in the residential area to block the eyesore of all the cars and parts and all that? That there's none of that going on either. Okay, that was all I'm going to bring up as questions. I don't know. How long, is there anything in code about how long cars are supposed to be?
He's allowed 3 cars, and again, I don't want to start answering questions now, but he's allowed 3 cars
Yeah.
per bay on his storage area, whether they are plated or not. He's allowed 3 cars per.
Okay. But how long do the cars,
There's
they
no
can stay there
time.
for years, they don't need to be moved or worked on, they just could
There's
stay there?
no time frame for the business component at all written into the code. So there's no time frame.
So they can just stay there, you're saying? Indefinitely. Doesn't seem like a lot of repair going on. Okay, thank you.
My name is Taco Vez, living in 23 to 10th Avenue. I'd like to answer some question as Joe said about the zoning issue. Building was up on sale as of last time I said, March 23rd, 20. And then get sold on November 1st, 2021. Meanwhile, there was a gentleman, Mike Fargo, he was in there without certificate of occupancy. He was paying rent. I have no issue he is paying under the table or not. I was just bringing up, there's nothing personal against Usman or anybody. If anybody else would be the same issue going on, we bring it up. The other issue, as Joe said, is there 5 bays. There was only 2 bays in Freda shop. That don't mean anybody else come. As I said, it's nothing personal. He can make a 5 bays, you or anybody can grant them with 3 more cars to park anywhere. The problem is, as the neighbors, we fighting over the parking issue. You're going to be hearing more comments from the public or more people. They have a hard time to park their cars because, as other lady said, the parking cars, not people parking the car, they're leaving the car there. Actually, that cars belong to the garage. They parking over there. And I send so many videos to Joe and code enforcement. It's not the people parking there. It's a garage parking, leave it there. And only one time they threw the car in front of where I live. But all of the cars now is going on 10th Avenue all the way up till 25th. And same side on 23rd. And this is ongoing issue. And 9 to 5 business is 9 to 5. So before even last time I mentioned, I went to Freda for my inspection. He said, you can't bring your car here because I have only 3 or 4 cars in his parking lot when he was operating business. There was only 4 or 5 cars allowed when he operating as a Freda business. But that means if I open up a shop, I open up a new base on 10th Avenue, that don't mean I get allowed 3 cars per bay. That means I can put 50 cars. As I said, this is nothing personal against any new one. It's just because we're going through it. And the problem starts because somebody, Usman's worker, they back into my car and makes it damage. And that's 3 times happened. One time I did claim and the other time I did not. So it's just not me or anybody. Now I'm hurting other people they're going through with it. And as Joe said, we don't have a proof for the painting. I have personally people tell me they get paint from there. And they have a insurance claims from them. I understand what you're saying for the 2 minute. So we need more time about the 2 minutes. We can't resolve it more less than 2 minutes. But
That'll be good for a further time. But
Yeah.
I think
No, we can-
I think we've heard the information you had.
Sure,
So
I
I'm gonna move you to another individual if they'd like
sure.
to speak.
Well, next time I have more proof, we can go through it.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
My name is Usman Rashid, owner of 7 Stars, 2307 10th Avenue. I respect my neighbors even more than myself. If they have any issue with the parking car on the street, they are very welcome to call the police and tow them away. If I'm not responsible, any car parked on the street. If it belongs to me, the customer come to me and I will go from there. But if it not belong to me, like somebody else park it and they're going to blame me, they can call the police and take it throw it away. Very simple answer. And the painting and Mr. What was his name? He already looked at it. I don't do painting, I don't do the body work, I don't do like whatever they're blaming in. Body work, no, only outdoor repair shop. That's it.
Thank you.
My name is Victoria Gonzalez, and I reside at 926 23rd Street, apartment 2. I moved to Watervliet 2.5 years ago, and my issue is not between Mr. Parvez and this gentleman with the parking issue. My issue is with Mr. Parvez in particular, and I also brought this to Mr. Person's attention in October as well as spring of last year. I have 2.5 years worth of doorbell footage of this gentleman intentionally using 3 cars to take up a 5-car parking spot on 23rd Street between 9th and 10th Street. I've sent footage to this gentleman. I've also sent photos. I've asked Watervliet Police Department to please handle it. They've told me numerous times they've had multiple calls that he's either slashed or damaged people's vehicles that park intentionally in front of his home. So that's in front of that 10th Avenue. I don't know what's going on over there, but I know in the L shape that involves 23rd and 10th, no one can park on the side of 23rd Street that is adjacent to our address because he's intentionally parking cars spaced out so you can never park there. I have doorbell footage of 2 months after I moved into the residency that my sister owns. He rang my doorbell with his daughter and his wife and said, I have to move my car. I'm not allowed to park on his side of the street. He's done this a month and a half ago to the new tenants who just moved in next door. So that is my situation and my problem that I have is when it's city residential parking, it's city residential parking. And there is maintenance being done out of his driveway that he does. I call it a kitchen mechanic. So someone who's not licensed but does car work for people they may know, people that they may trust to work with their cars. That's what is done in his driveway. He refuses to park in his own driveway. That's my only issue.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wait, is that a city council matter?
My name is Carmen
Well,
Acosta. I live at 926 23rd Street. Again, I come for the same issue. Over the last 2.5 years, this gentleman will intentionally space his cars to the point where you cannot park behind him, you cannot park in between him, and you cannot park in front of him, which leaves you to risking getting a ticket if you park in front of 23rd Street where there is a fire hydrant. If it's a public area, then everybody should equally be able to share their space. Between my apartment building and the neighbors, we have 5 vehicles squeezed in bumper to bumper, 5 vehicles. In front of that vehicle is a sewer, correct?
A big sewer.
That we have brought to your attention that needs to either be covered or repaired to expand the parking space. So you have 5 vehicles parked on one side of the block. We can't use the driveway. We have to block our driveway, so we can't even use our garage in order for us to park and be amicable with our neighbors. Okay? We cannot park on 10th because it's a one-way street. The left side of my property, which is 10th, we can't park there. We cannot park in front of his house. It's a public space. He doesn't allow anybody else to park. So please, help us understand what solution we're going to come up with, because we have a right to park. I work. And as far as, I'm sorry, there was a comment made about Mr. Usman using his work vehicle. I use my car as a work vehicle too. I park it in front of my residence. So does that gonna be an issue for me? I work for the community. So tell me, because my car is not properly labeled saying nursing for New York, does that make that any less of a valid vehicle to park in a neighborhood if it's public? Thank you.
Can you do me a favor and send me a picture of this? You're talking about a sewer.
Yes, sir, that's floods. We sent the video.
Send me the picture to that email address so I can take a look at it. Now, you can't cover a sewer grate because it's used for drainage, but let me check it out first, and then we can have a better conversation because then I'll have your direct email.
That would be
Okay?
wonderful, because when it floods, it not only floods the building next to us, but it floods our basement
Yeah,
too.
let me have a conversation with you afterwards, or when you send me an email.
Can you give me your last name again?
Acosta, A-C-O-S-T-A.
Thank you.
Okay.
Go.
So, also, 926 23rd Street, apartment 1.
Marvin White?
Apartment 1. It's Ben, my name is Ben.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Ben, your last name? Sorry.
Acosta.
Acosta. Thank you.
So, yep, same experience as Vicky there, when we moved into the area that winter. So when we were moving our cars to the other side of the street, as is customary here, the cops come and let you know when the plows are coming. So that was when we were told by our neighbor that we weren't to park on that side of the street. And the issue with the sewer, the sidewalk kind of dips in. It doesn't look safe. You know, you park either, your car will kind of dip in there, so no one really parks there. And when it rains, that area floods the train tracks and all that. So it's very limited. We could conceivably park on the other side of the street if it weren't for the fact that he's got 3 cars there and he spaces them just so that you can't get another vehicle in there. And he's got at least 3 cars parked there all the time, and there's usually another one caddy corner on the other side of the street in front of his house. That would happen. So that presents us with a problem, because our neighbors also can't park. We've tried to be amicable, hopefully maybe fixing the drain issue, and maybe that will give a little bit more space for us that we can park on our side without having to worry about him. But that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Okay. Bill?
Anyone else?
Yeah. Okay. I want to thank everyone for making the comments. I believe, in some respects, I think what I've gotten out of a lot of this is basically got to be good neighbors. I think that's basically what I found to be the problem. I think Joe made it very clear, parking is an issue all over. I mean, it's a city, I get it, it's not, it's not the country. But I do believe, again, the city street is for everybody. You cannot regulate parking in front of your own house. The only thing you have as your own is basically your driveway. And I think that's about it. But I guess it does come down to being good neighbors and helping each other out when you can. So with that, we'll close the public hearing. And is there anything else to be brought in front of the council?
I have nothing for the February 1st meeting pending, so I think online that we're not going to have a meeting on the 1st. We have a public hearing scheduled for the 15th, so we will work towards getting an agenda for that night.
All right, so what we're planning on is not having a meeting for the 5th as it stands now.
First.
Or the first
Yeah,
February.
because I have nothing pending, and I'd be getting ready on, I guess, coming Monday, and I have nothing right now, so we're moving everything to the 15th.
Okay, so there won't be no meeting on the 1st of February. It'll be the 15th. Got it. Thank you very much.
You're
All right. Okay.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion was made with Janet.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. Call the roll, please.
Councilman Bills?
In favor.
Councilwoman Dodd?
Favor?
Mayor Patrick.
In favor. Thank you, everyone. I won't be seeing you. Have a nice